What up? What up? What up? Welcome to my live. Today is the first season, actually, it's the third season of the first episode of Table Talk Tuesday. Soon I'm going to have Yvana come in and she's going to join me. This is the first episode of a new season, Table Talk Tuesday. Coach Yvana is going to join me any minute. We're gonna have a nice conversation for about an hour long, and welcome to our first show. Hey, come on in, wave, come on in. Just waiting for Yvana, Coach Yvana, to join us. I mean, it's gonna be an exciting conversation. If you ever been part of our Table Talk Tuesdays in the past, you know you can get a lot of good nuggets of great information. Nope. I'm waiting for Yvana to join. Yvana should join any minute. Here she comes. Hey, Yvana. Again, this is the third season, first episode. I'm excited. And Yvana is our first guest of the new season. So let me see if she requested to join. Welcome. Come on in. Here she comes. Okay. Look at that. I need. Hey, how are you?
What's going on, y'all?
How are you? I had to lift my camera all the way up. How you doing?
That's fine. How are you guys?
I'm
Life
doing
Coach
good.
Eddie in the building. Let's go.
Wait. But before we go into anything, I gotta. You're a pretty famous person. I'm talking about.
Whatever.
So you're a two-time former Olympic level athlete. You're a confidence coach. You're a global speaker, and you're a best-selling author of Flight of Your Life. Welcome.
Huh?
Welcome. Thank you for
Thank you.
gracing your presence on my platform. On our very first
It's
episode of the third season, I gotta
woo!
say.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Let's go. All right.
What's up, Robbie?
So,
Yeah, look at all the people we have in the chat already. What's up? This is awesome.
so, so I, if you're not aware of this show, this show particularly is for us to experience the journey of others, right?
Yeah.
Because I truly believe we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our
Word.
living testimony.
Come on.
So our living testimony, our stories help each other
That's right.
in
That's right.
healing and understanding with greater like if you look at the word and you saw how Christ moved, he moved in a way that's told parables and stories.
Right.
So we go deep dive and we allow our guests to tell their story
Yeah.
from their own voice.
Yeah. Love that.
So
Woo.
welcome.
Thank you.
Do you have any beginning words or any
I do. God is good. He's a God of balance and rest, and I travel a lot. This was a season for me this summer where I really didn't think or expect that I was going to be hitting the ground running, traveling 20 different cities within the summer, and really putting the hands to the plow, if that makes sense. But I learned really quickly that no matter how bountiful the harvest, as a worker, you have to find balance and you have to find rest. That is number one. So I've been doing a lot of inner work. I've been having, my virtual therapy sessions to keep me grounded and also to help me release. I've been incorporating new things, new stimulus, new environments, new people, new cultures, just to try to kind of feel that whole comprehensive balance, if that makes sense. So yeah.
That's awesome. And it's so awesome that you're very open about your journey in regards to therapy, in regards to, your personal mental health.
Right.
Not everyone is open to that. So it's really good to hear that. Like you just casually bring it up in conversation.
Yeah, to me, I believe that vulnerability and transparency opens doors. And I'm also a door opener. So the more transparent and vulnerable someone is with me, especially as a coach, I'm like, I can only have that credibility if I am that. So some of my best moments have come because I was honest. I was straight up about a situation. We've talked about different things, and having that sounding board of, it's like honesty and honesty, that breeds room and also fosters an environment for it to just be natural. And I don't have time to fake, man. I don't have time to like. I don't have time for that, yo. I don't. I'm
Absolutely.
grown. I'm a grown woman.
I'm right there
Yeah,
with you. All right,
yeah.
all right. Ivana, what
Tell me.
makes Ivana like? Where did you start off your life? Where
Oh
did
man.
Ivana begin?
All right. So after heaven delivered the package and I was born, I started off in New York, born and raised. I was born to a family that hosted Bahamian culture and Jamaican culture, so you know we were eating real good.
Oh wow.
Um, Being from
Who's
South Bronx,
Bahamian?
Brooklyn, and then
Your
upstate. Tell
mom
me.
or your dad? Who's Bahamian? Your mom
So
or
it's
your
on
dad?
my dad's side, and then my mom has the Jamaican side.
Oh
So,
wow.
and my grandfather, straight from Jamaica, came here, made a living, and really poured into the hard work and the ethics early, like early. I remember feeling that hard work is a privilege, but then to reap the benefits of that, it just felt like he's teaching me principles when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. We would stay up late. I loved spelling. I loved anything phonetics. I loved all that stuff. And so he would teach me like how to grind through and also develop the little entrepreneurial mind that I have. And there's, as you know, being Caribbean, your work ethic is everything.
Yeah.
But there comes a point though where sometimes you might define who you are in your role or in your position or in your promotion. And I've
Yeah.
learned longer down the line that my identity, it's 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 cool in whatever position I'm in, but that grind as an entrepreneur, that hard work, like that's gonna be there because that's built within me, my foundation. But I
Yeah.
cannot get lost in
Yeah.
the you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. I can't get lost in that because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people I know and a lot of people I've coached have been lost, and it's
You
hard.
can't get, yeah, absolutely. I agree
Yeah,
with you. You can get lost in it in a way.
quick.
So you grew up in New York,
Yeah.
and your home situation, was it like, did you like, was with your siblings? Heard your grandfather had an impact in your life. What was
Yeah.
that
So
dynamic? What was the influences, your primary influences in your life? Did you
my
have like brothers and sisters,
oh yeah.
or yeah?
Oh yeah. So I'm the eldest, top
Okay,
daughter. Hello.
you're the
And
eldest.
so shout out, shout
Yeah,
out to the children that were born first, baby. We paved the
yeah, yeah.
pathway. I have two brothers, and we were all raised together. It was interesting because we do have. There was a separation that happened when I was younger, 4 years old. Parents split, and then my Caribbean background, my family, my grandparents, they co-raised us up until I was in seventh grade, and
Oh,
my mom was grinding, single parent for a long time, just doing the best she could, and it spoke. Like, I don't know if we have anybody listening that's a
yeah,
mom or even a single parent, but that's a real journey. And
yeah.
being in the midst of that and seeing her rarely, like it would be, she would go from one shift to another shift, and I'm waking up like begging for her to come home. And I didn't see that all the time because she was trying to make a living for us. So it was interesting,
So,
but
so at 4 years old, you said your parents went on
divorce,
the
they did.
divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember your dad before you was four, like in the house, or you just was told that four they separated? You guys they separated.
You're the first to ever ask these questions, and I feel comfortable even sharing. I don't remember anything prior because a lot of the divorce was very traumatic. I was in the middle, I felt most of the time. And so it to me was a tear between like rights. We're with mom, we're with grandparents, we're with dad.
Jeez.
It was just felt like a tug of war all the time. So I don't remember ever being in the house with them
Oh,
together in harmony.
but
Yeah.
you saw pictures, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not many, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like when I think about my kids, like before, you know, the divorce. Gabrielle is my youngest, and she's
Yeah.
13 now, right?
Oh,
But she literally don't remember times of, and
yeah.
it seemed like she should remember, like, hey, you were there, like, and it breaks my heart.
I know.
And I think she kind of experienced kind of what you kind of experienced, like
Yeah.
both
Right.
homes. You know,
Right,
probably
right.
not the most positive things that
Mhm.
I try to have positive things to say,
Yeah,
but I'm just saying, but
yeah,
that experience of not having that solid, like
yeah,
you don't have to worry about that. You can just be a kid. And I
yeah.
worry about that robbing, or that experience that has robbed the younger ones of that. However,
100%.
I have older ones that went through it with both parents in the home, and they kind of doing their own thing. So I'm like, you know what? God will season you the way He seasons you.
That's it.
And
That's it. Right.
sometimes the purpose of going through life, because I had an ex girlfriend who had, in my opinion, a father that was horrible, but
Mm,
she held on to my father. She would always say,
mm,
"Oh, my father, I love my father, love my father," and I used
yeah,
to understand it, you
yeah.
know. And but if you will see her, she was the most demure, classy person, and
Mhm.
consider I'm trying. No, she was the most classy
Yeah,
person that existed. Like you would never know that she came from that, because that fire that she went through seasoned her. All right, so going back to your story,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Of
All
course, of
right,
course.
so you're in a situation where you're a young kid and you don't know, and then you grew up in a dynamic where you have a high influence, you said, of your grandfather or
And grandmother, yeah, they were
your
rocks.
grandmother,
Oh man.
which probably was phenomenal to have
Oh,
that support system.
they were so supportive. I remember doing my first push up at three, no, no, 4.5, 4.5. My first pull up. We had a gym downstairs, and my grandfather would wake my brother and I, my second brother and I, up early, and we would go downstairs and we would learn the work ethic of disciplining the body, and we would go walk the dogs early. We would make sure breakfast is done early. And that's my grandfather. My grandmother was the compassionate but tough one, and she always saw the talent in me, and she would put up cameras. Like, you guys can't see it here, but I'm in a space with a lot of cameras, and she would put up her camcorder and have her tripod up, and she would be like, Ivana, just be free, dance, sing, like do what I know is in you and do it well. And I'm like, but there's no audience. But she's like, you always do it for you. And she taught me that very young, and she probably had, I'm not even kidding, 1,000 pieces of footage of me just getting on this imaginary stage, dancing and being free. And I'll never forget feeling like, wow, she believes in me.
Oh
Wow, she
wow.
sees me.
Yeah.
Like, she literally sees me. And years later, I'm in front of cameras all the time as an actor, as a speaker, as a model. And I'm just like, she saw this. Like,
She's
you know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
what?
they laid a seed,
They
and
planted the seed. And my
when she.
grandfather saw athletics. He saw I was built when I was younger,
All right, so
and that's how it
let's
started.
let's get back to that story, because I want to like work through where you are now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes when we tell our own story, we don't realize we rush right through it and say, "We're here now.
No,
Let's
no,
talk about now."
no, 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 no. Let's go.
So
I got
I want to
time.
hear your story. What made you? So you're in elementary. Do you remember elementary school?
Yeah, third grade, I remember, no, I remember all the grades, to be honest, because I went to a
Uh,
strict Christian academy.
oh,
After, I will say this, and I'll say this very sternly because this is my experience.
yeah.
When you are a child in the midst of divorce, it can have very interesting developmental impacts on you. Meaning, I was very hyperactive, and I was always like, just, like excited about life, but very energetic. Now, my energetic self started to see the chaos behind the scenes between mom and dad split. So, and I hear what he's saying about her, I hear what she's saying about him. And it got to a point where, like, I was rebellious. Even at 4, I was very rebellious. No, 2, I think. Yeah, 2 is when my mom was like, I kicked you out the house and I sent you off to a Christian academy, and, so let it
Oh,
be.
whoa, 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 whoa. When you went to the Christian academy, it was like a boarding
So
academy too.
it wasn't boarding because we lived close, but it could have been. But it was, I don't know if you ever seen Greenleaf, for any actors out there that know Greenleaf, or any supporters. That show right there, it was kind of like that. Like, you go to like a preparatory school for students, right? And they had deep Christian principles. It was very dogmatic, and it was very amazing for me during that time. And I left at second grade and then went into, whatever, public school. But with that being said, I learned like scripture, like context. I had to memorize the Martin Luther King Jr. speech. I have a dream. I had to publicly speak that at the age of 4. It was like crazy stuff, man. Like crazy
Wait,
stuff.
wait,
I'll never
wait,
forget
wait,
that.
wait. You feel like I don't know if you could be sent off at 2, but you said you were sent off at 2. But
Listen, she could have
probably
sent me off a lot earlier, but no, she didn't send me off at 2. Let me go back. Let me go back.
okay,
Let me
okay,
go back.
okay,
It was
okay,
at 4 years old.
okay,
I was
okay,
acting like I was in my terrible twos. That's what it is.
okay, okay, okay. So he sent you off at 4, and you kind of got the pre-K and that kind of dogmatic, structural
Yeah,
education
yeah,
up to second grade.
yeah. It was rigorous. Yeah, yeah.
So, is there one big takeaway you took from that period of like being in that school? Is it something that you would never want to go back to? Is it something that you would want to share with future kids? Or is there something that you took from that situation that you said, I would never or I will do? Or,
Well, it was interesting because they were allowed to correct the children
yeah.
physically. So I got beat. I'll never forget on my birthday, I was on the lap of my first grade teacher, and there was a big wooden spoon and a wooden belt, and I got beaten from the class for my birthday.
What?
So
Wait, 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 wait.
it made me strong, though. It made me real strong. But
Okay. What, they beat, like, they took the wooden paddle and put it on your butt?
yeah, and then there was a time where our homework was late in first grade as well, and there was a yardstick. I don't know if you ever seen that long yardstick. So we would all have to line up in front of the class, and she would take the yardstick and then go through our calves back and forth. And so let me just say this, okay? CPS, I know they were there, but they didn't know about all of this in the school.
That,
And
to
to
be
me,
honest, yeah, that's a little abusive, don't you think? Yeah.
so to me, I was exposed very early to the harm of discipline and chastening a child the way that maybe they don't need it. There were some children that had ADHD and they needed a whooping. Don't spare the rod, don't spoil the child, biblical principles that they were saying, but it was taken a little bit too far. And there's people that never have went back to that academy, that church. It's a very long story. But from my experience, I believe that discipline is
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah, yeah.
Physically hitting a child, not every child needs that. I probably would have been the child that just needed verbal affirmation and correction. Ivana, I'm so disappointed in you. That's like 16
Yeah.
lashings. What do I need to do to get in your good graces? That's a part of the people pleasing, especially a child coming through that divorce time. You want to please, you want to be in there.
But
Yeah.
when you say people pleasing, do you think that I don't know if that's part of your story, but you just said it's part of your people pleasing. So I'm assuming that it may be part of your story, right? So do you feel like going through that experience early on set the tone of that people pleasing? Or like,
I think when it comes to the development of a child, anything can contribute to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, it could have been a seed. It could have been constant working for that
yeah,
affirmation. Mind you, I said Caribbean culture, so you're always going to be achieving something and
yeah,
hoping for that love to be given. But just to go back really quick to that school, it saved me. Like, I don't know how, but it saved me. It taught me Christian principles I never knew. It gave me balance on how to release anger even at 4, 5, 6, and 7, how to release that tension and that frustration of I don't have a whole family here. I don't have a nuclear mom and dad are sitting on the couch. The Huxtables are here. I don't have that. So my outlet became athletics. It became studying. It became researching, and it became the spelling bee. It's crazy. I can't even believe I'm saying all that.
did your father want you in that school, or was there an agreement, or both of them wanted you?
It's a little personal, so I won't go
Oh,
too
okay,
deep
okay,
into it. But I
okay.
know that for my mom, she had most of control of over my
Okay.
education.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. So now you're past the second grade, right?
yeah.
So where are
Public
you
school.
from? Public school. So
Oof.
how was it transitioning from that school to public school? It must have been a different
It
culture
was
shock.
brutal. It was
Oh,
brutal.
wow.
Just like, yeah, just like I said, the show Greenleaf, if you ever look it up, it's predominantly black. You have like the Jack and Jill, the high esteemed, all that stuff. And that's essentially where my culture was groomed in, or the culture groomed me in, I would say. So it was only black people. There was one white child in my entire school. And then when I went to public school, I was now only the fourth black child in that entire
Oh, wow.
elementary. So that was like, what are we
Wow.
doing? But I was also blessed to be able to live in the suburbs, a little part in the city, but live truly and be rooted in the suburbs. So all my neighbors were white.
Yeah.
And maybe I had like two here, black and Hispanic, but the predominant race was white. So I knew how to get along. I knew how to code switch, but that was also the first time I was ever called the N-word in third grade when I went to public school. So I was like, dang, this is a little rough. Let me go back to my people.
In
It
third
hurt.
grade?
Yeah.
So, okay, so your first, so third grade, was that your first year in public school?
Yes. Yeah. That was
Like,
it.
how long, how short was that period? Was that like within the first 6 months of going to school? It was like you were kind of told those kind of derogatory remarks, or what within that
I
year?
I think
Oh,
I think it was the first year I learned this is cruel. Like when you look different, it is a cruel world that does not embrace you. And these children don't have to accept me. I just came new into the school, but I did flock to those that did accept me, which was a Haitian girl, which was a Black American girl, and we had our posse. And we did the talent show, and oh man, we performed
oh
so
God.
well and became best friends. And I was just talking to my former best friend literally yesterday was her birthday, and we've stayed in contact since third grade. So it taught me that even when you're ostracized, there's still a tribe for you. There's still a community out there for you, you know? And it did hurt to be called the N-word because I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
also
yeah.
knew I was scared to death to tell my grandparents and definitely scared to tell my mom. My mom was really raising me with my, for solely, I would say, with my
Yeah.
grandparents. And so I'm like, if I gotta go home and tell them, this is gonna be a problem. And I never forget. We were sitting at McDonald's. I had my Happy Meal. I'm looking at my toy, and there's something within a child where when something's not right, you do want to say it. You just don't know how to use and harness that voice sometimes. So for me, I was like, this can either go one or two ways. She could either burn the school up after I tell her, or she can just cry with me. Like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I was so scared to tell her I got called the N word. And after I told her, I don't remember seeing that kid again. So
Oh, she probably like.
she
Oh
did
wow.
what she had to do. Okay.
Oh wow. So okay, so you were in that school for. I mean, you did public school
Yeah.
up to middle school, right?
Never went back to private
You
school.
never went
No.
back. And then any highlights from up to middle school? Or do you remember any
Absolutely.
teachers? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough. I'm not going to front. It was tough being an individual with a beautiful weight on your skin, meaning a African American person of color. I did feel there was differentiation. I did feel like I was treated differently many times in the classroom, but my thing was if I can just perform well academically, if I can perform well and figure out my niche, then I can just, it'll be a breeze. And my niche became art, and my vision started to form in public school. I didn't have vision when I was in private school. I needed, in a sense, discipline. I needed guidance, and I needed spiritual development. But when I was in third grade, I would write on a folder, excuse me, a manila folder. I would write these circles and draw these circles and write Olympics. Now, this is Gail Devers' time. This is the pinnacle of the Olympic time. And I remember feeling like, I got to do that. That's what I want to do when I grow up. Like, I want to be that or a veterinarian. Which path am I going to take, you know? And I knew very early, and I know you know this, like when you have vision, that's everything. How can you win if you don't have vision? So
Absolutely.
that became my lifelong pursuit, to be honest.
Did
Yeah.
you tell anyone that pursuit initially, or was it?
My teacher discovered it. She saw my folder, and clearly I wasn't supposed to be writing on this folder or drawing on it. So she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, Just drawing Olympic rings. And she just kept quiet, you know, and I respect the teachers and those that see the gift within people or see maybe a direction that people are heading in and just keep quiet as opposed to bashing it, you know. Steve Harvey has a whole journey and life about that and chapter. Like, not every teacher needs to say something about something a child is experiencing in on their own, you know, especially negate it because you never know what that a child will turn into. You never know.
Oh. So now you graduated elementary school and you're like in middle school.
Ooh,
Was the transition
tough.
easy? Like, what's your dynamic
It was
now in
tough
middle
again.
school? It's
So
the it's,
going, yeah,
yeah.
going to middle school was pretty interesting because now I'm leaving my core group. I would say going to the second middle school was a little difficult because I'm now moving out of my grandparents and my mom's home. And now we're just moving into my mother's home into a totally different city. And this city was like little Puerto Rico, little Havana. It was like, oh, now this is Hispanic culture. So I had all black culture, then I had all white culture, and now I have Hispanic culture as the predominant with white. So it was, I mean, we're talking bodega, we're talking about like kids going and getting cheese doodles in the morning and walking to school. And I'm just like, what? This is like a barrio? Like, what kind of neighborhood is
Oh,
this?
wow.
But it taught me a lot about how to embrace culture. And you'll see a lot of the times Hispanic and Black, we interchangeably love one another because the roots, we already know the history. But that was the first time I learned kids can be rough. Like that's the first time I was exposed to a lot of things that they were just like walk in the park and I'm like, what is
But
this?
when you say rough, I know you've experienced a lot of roughness coming into third grade. Like, what's the level of rough like, as far as like?
Level of rough, I'm being real with you. I'm be straight up. Oh, so how many boys have you slept with? This is seventh grade. I didn't even know it slept with men. I didn't know anything about sex. Didn't even know. Health education didn't even start yet. PE didn't even start. Obviously, we have phones nowadays with kids, but there was no
Yeah.
phones back then, you know? I was like, what do you mean? I read books, like stories. I don't know.
So you're like
It was
you're
different.
like this kid in the shelter that had this culture shock.
Oh, and it never stopped. It was like I was always getting shocked. I was always getting shocked, but I always produced a type of currency and electricity throughout being shocked that always turned into something of a blessing later in my life.
So you always turned it around into something.
Thank God.
So,
Yeah.
so were you okay? So you got the attention of boys and stuff like that. Were you tall? Were you short?
Oh gosh.
Weight?
I hit my growth spurt in that school,
Okay.
and there were only three tall girls, me being one of them. They were all 5'7", 5'6". This is seventh grade, eighth grade, and it was like we were giants, and everybody else was here. So now I feel ostracized because we're tall. But then once again, if those that are ostracized, you find your own clique, and you click with your clique.
Yeah.
And so we became best friends all the way up until college, you know. And that was the one time though that I was like always hunching over in photos, always like trying to be as close to the 5'3" people as possible
Are you
because it
serious?
wasn't really attractive. Or boys didn't actually say it was attractive. Girls definitely said it wasn't really attractive to be tall, to, you know, your feet grow, everything's growing at the same time. And I was like, you're different. You're different. And I
So
didn't
when
really
it's,
know how to embrace that difference.
okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good because you go through a journey when you're younger and you're tall, and they're telling you
Yeah.
different, and you can see it as a negative thing towards
It was
your own.
100% active.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you see yourself as attractive at that time?
I never doubted attractiveness. That's the good thing. I always doubted the the creation of my package. That's different. The creation of my package, my dad is 6'4.5". My mom is 5'7". I was meant to be tall,
Yeah.
right? My brother, he ended up being tall as well. He's 6'4", former NFL player. Like we were meant to be tall
Wait, 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 wait,
athletes. And
wait,
at
wait,
that
wait, wait. Your brother's a former NFL player.
yeah.
You're a two-time Olympic level. What is being produced in this house? Yeah.
Thank God HGH was never produced. Okay, we were all natural.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, it was an interesting time, and I'll never forget when my brother first came to my school. That was a lot of contention. I don't know if you ever had contention between siblings, but we didn't know that there was a war being formed around. You have Yvana Hepburn, because now I started really honing in on, I am gifted to do sports. Like, I love it. I was a middle hitter volleyball athlete, and I was also a track athlete. And I remember there was an announcement over the PA system. If you want to do track and field, come out and just see what event you want to do and pick it. And here you'll be on the team if you know, do all this stuff.
Mhm.
I made the team, and there was nobody that wanted to do hurdles. And I remember looking at the hurdles, and I was like, I always chose things that nobody wanted to do. When I was in the private school, I was just like, let me choose this, let me choose that. When I finally got instruments, I totally blew past that in my story, but I was musically inclined. And so my mom also put me into a piano conservatory. And I was training as a professional pianist for years, like years. And then I progressed into being a professional violist and state titles and all this stuff. And the crazy thing about it is, I discovered, even if I'm being made fun of because of my height, I have gifts in me and talents in me that I feel comfortable hiding behind, if that makes sense. You know, it seemed like all the nerds were the musicians. So I was like, okay, let's play. And I was playing and loving it and playing and loving it until athletics really took over. And when it took over, my school created this rivalry of like, my brother's not good enough. He's not as good as his older sister. And she's the one with all these state titles. And you can imagine the confidence shatter of a young Black male in a new school system. It was rough, man. The coaches were saying things, the athletic
So
director said things.
they would compare your
Yes,
brother to you,
100%.
and
Absolutely. All the time.
he didn't like that at all.
He's slow, he's asthmatic, he'll never catch up, he's riding the bench sometimes. But that formed in him this grit that took him straight to the league. And it was funny because this year alone, we both got notification. This was my second induction into the Hall of Fame, and now jointly with him. And we stood in front of the same people that had something to say 20 years ago.
Oh wow.
The same people that might have made fun of us. So that was fun.
Oh wow. So the Hall of Fame of what? Your school or?
Yeah, so both in New York, state titles. I was a three-time state champion, which I worked really hard for. And the only reason why I'm sharing that is because I became so obsessive about my vision, and I protected it with all my heart. I didn't tell everybody I want to make it to the Olympics. I just said, I need to see someone that's done it from New York and did it successfully. And I need to find a way to follow that path and create a journey of my own. And I'll never forget in PE, that's where I discovered so much. There were these state titles, big, and it was in front of your face. These are the people that made it to the NFL. These are the people that made it to the, you know, the top in the professional athlete world. And I'll never forget, I looked at it and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get, how many she has? She has 2 state titles and 1 indoor title, state title, 3 total. And she was D1 scholarship all the way to University of Miami, and then took it as far as she could Olympic level.
So now, as far as your school, did it produce a lot of kids that got the state
Most
title?
there, I would say, like, I wouldn't say a lot. I would say that there was like a cream of the crop that was solidified. It was basketball, it was football, it was volleyball, it was state titles. So I always saw way more than other, which is funny. From the privileged school that I came from, you didn't see Olympians, you didn't see people that were way up there when it came to professional athletics. But in the barrio, and the ones that developed around, like, you know,
The hood.
people of color,
The
those type
hood.
of schools. I was gonna say the hood, but it's not that I came from the hood. That's what I'm saying. But those that did develop from the hood, yo, full scholarship athletes, some of the best athletes ever in the league, and some of the best athletes and Olympians. So it's interesting, you know, that
You can't
dichotomy.
take away the sauce.
You
God put
can't.
sauce. It is
Sasson all
what
the
it
time.
is.
All the
All
time.
right, all right. So this is in high school. You getting these titles or middle school? It's high school.
High school, high school,
High
high
school.
school. Middle school was development. High school was grind.
All right.
Grind.
So
I knew I needed to get out of New York. It wasn't for me.
you were super focused in high school, and you kind of put like your mind to what you wanted to achieve?
100%. I was so, and I was always like that. If I wanted something, I was going to go get it. It didn't matter how much it cost or sacrifice. I would spend my lunch hours going into the library researching how to get a D1 scholarship. My friends would be chilling. They're doing stuff. By the way, my school was so gangster. The girls in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade were piercing their tongues in the bathroom. So I was like, well, yeah, piercing their navels in the bathroom. There were some, they had PM school for like the really, really, really interesting kids. I'll say interesting as a colorful word. They had razor blades underneath their tongue at any moment they were ready to fight. So you come from a choice in life. You either go that path or you isolate and ostracize even your own self to protect the vision.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You
Yeah.
being in the
Yeah.
environment and you being the white girl. You being Yvana. No, you're
Pause.
not the white girl. No, you being Yvana, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how are the girls treating you? Like, are they treating you differently? Have you made a niche for yourself that
Well,
people respected
yeah. That's a
who
good
you are?
question.
Because
I
let's be honest, like you're Caribbean, you're a little bit different, you're
Right.
not the same, and sometimes they will call you the white girl, you know what I
But
mean? And I don't
not
say that,
but not
I'm not
necessarily
saying that in a
in a
sense.
Hispanic black school. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay,
that was the difference. If I
okay,
stayed in that public school that was predominantly white, I probably would have been called a lot, but I wasn't in that. I
okay,
was in cultures that embraced
okay,
me. They just,
okay, okay,
people that just pick on you for stupid stuff. You
okay,
already know,
okay.
yeah. So it's different.
So, so they didn't make fun of you for being goody two shoes or anything
No,
like that.
not because I didn't make it known either. I let my athletics and
Oh,
achievements speak for itself. I was in the library. They didn't know where I was. I was in the back, in the cut, on the computer, trying to figure out how to message assistant coaches and get them to come see me race in New York. How do I get scholarships? Like I was focused, man. Like I was focused.
okay, so when you said earlier, you said something earlier in regards to when you would do all of that, no one would know. It would be
Yeah,
just, you had these plans, but you kept it to yourself.
yeah.
Did you let anyone at school know? Did your mom knew or
Um, Not really, not really. And it was a journey it felt like it was just me and God, and that was okay. Like I felt like I was being led through a journey of isolation so that I could protect the vision I had. And I was okay with that. And I didn't even ask my mom, like, how do I email? I didn't ask anything. I went on yahoo.com and I started learning everything I needed to know when I was young, like young. Yeah,
so even in that young age, you just kept these dreams and vision
yeah,
to
yeah,
yourself and with God and just
yeah,
grind towards them.
yeah, yeah. That was it. And I let yeah.
Knowing who you are now as an adult, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Like you okay with being alone with God, and then you come out and like, hey, I'm here.
Hi. And it's like let your work speak for itself. Like I don't have to boast and brag about anything. I
Okay.
work very hard for everything that I have, and I worked very, very, very hard to protect the things that I have. And there were so many kids that they were okay with the F and gym. They were okay with like, I'm not going to college or I want to go to community college. No shame to that. Do you? But for me, I had to get up out of New York. I knew, and I told my mom when I was 14 years old, I looked at her, I said, Mom, I'm gonna tell you this right now. My legs are gonna earn me a full scholarship. You're never gonna have to pay for a thing. And I'm leaving at the age of 16. I'm leaving this house and I'm going to Florida. Just like that. I sit today in Florida. I earned a living with my legs, and she never had to pay for anything. And as a single parent, you can imagine the frustration and the pressure of like my daughter saying this, but what's the reality that's going to happen? Look, what are the
Yeah.
odds is going to happen? Look at the community she's around. A lot of people of color. So how's she going to make it out? And she fought against me so
Oh
hard.
wow.
And it's a good thing. I want to share this because it's my story. But she fought against me because she was like, you need to stay close to home, Mama Bear. You need to also make sure that you can guarantee a scholarship. Just because you have lofty vision doesn't mean it's going to work. Mind you, that's why I kept things on the low for so long, because I didn't even know she would have thought like that. But even that thought could have derailed me so quick. And I'll never forget, I had a visit at the school, and the coach was like, I'll give her a full ride right now. I was like, no, I don't want it. She was like, let me go talk to my daughter real quick. I'll be right back. She's like, what are you doing? Like, are you crazy? This man's offering you a full scholarship in Albany. Are you And I was like, it ain't for me. I don't like the bricks on the buildings. It's cold. I don't want to be there because I've been following a vision that I saw, and it involves like Florida. Like if she did it for University of Miami, I could do it. And that's literally what I thought, and I did.
Wow, you stayed focused at that young age.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
I know you're
amazing.
different.
Wow. So it's kind of like you're a little bit rebellious.
Absolutely. And I think courageous. I was a little bit courageous because rebellion, I could say I was rebellious towards her vision for my life. Yeah. And I was
which
courageous.
which
Exactly.
allowed you to be, you had to be courageous to be
I had to,
rebellious.
I had to, I had to. And I had to make a very bold choice. But in my mind, there was no other option. I didn't see sink or float. I just was floating. I was like, no, no, you don't get it. I said, if I'm going to do it, it's going to get done. And so there was so much hardship because I want to speak to people that like, I've always thought about that. Like, you might have this lofty vision for your life, but you don't see the hardship that comes with it. I ran and I did volleyball and I did basketball. I did all these different sports, but it led to the detriment of my legs being broken, both legs, before I even got to college. So I signed late. I signed my letter of intent late, and we have physicals. So I end up getting a full scholarship to University of South Florida, go Bulls. And I have a physical. You know, you leave high school, they want to make sure you're good. Is your heart okay? Cardiology, all this stuff, everything's good. And then now I just asked a question. I was like, hey, I've been having a lot of problems with my legs, and I'm here. I finally made it to college on my own. But can we just like, do you have any suggestions? She was like, you know what? Let's do a radiology. Let's get an X-ray. Like, all right, man. Let me tell you, this is what I wasn't prepared for. The nurse comes in, a doctor comes in, another doctor comes in. I'm like, this can't be good. Long story short, they were like, Ivana, you've been running on broken legs for a year. And I was like, what do you mean broken legs? And they were like, your stress fractures are so bad in your tibias that at any point the bone could have broken completely. And I was like, what? So I'm crying and I'm calling my mom, and she's like, see, now I gotta come to Florida. I told you to stay in New York. And I'm like, Mom, don't be dramatic.
Oh
I
wow!
need
Oh
you.
wow!
Like, I need you. And thank God everything was already signed for as far as contracted education, but I did have to redshirt that year. So what happens when you want something so bad and you get it and now you're sidelined? So I was on the bench for a whole year, didn't perform at all. They proposed a surgery where they would take metal rods like this big, open up my patella, slide the metal rods down through my tibia, anchor it with 8 screws at the top of the knee and 8 screws at the bottom of the ankle, and do that for both legs. They said you'll be in a wheelchair for a year, and we hope that the stress fractures don't continue to form. But at least if they break completely your tibia, you'll have a metal rod and you'll be running like Forrest Gump with, metal rods on the inside. Watch it, watch this. Not only was this the hardest period I've ever had to go through in my life at that time, freshman in college, I was 16 years old, super young. I turned 17 because I started early with the private academy. And so my mom was like, you got one option, because their only option was surgery. You might be back to perform as your sophomore year. I'm like, okay. My mom said, you got one option. Either we gonna pray this thing out and fast, or we gonna pray and fast. And I was like, you want me to tell my coach to pray and fast, Mom? I'm like, we need some better strategy because this ain't gonna work. So long story short, my coach comes to me, the athletic director comes to me. There's this big situation about Yvana, the New York Stars, coming to Florida, and now she's not even gonna compete, but now she needs surgery and she's gonna get the surgery. They were talking about me getting a surgery I never consented to at all. So now I have the pressure of performing under someone else's vision, and I went through a moment where I was like, Lord, I need you more than ever. Like, you done walked me all the way through this journey. What am I going to do? He was silent. I was like, you know how you were real loud before? I can't hear you. I can't even hear your voice, Lord. And that became the greatest test of my life ever. And the coolest thing about it, long story short, I listened to my mom. She ordered a bunch of homeopathic remedies for calcium deposits to hopefully work. We prayed and we fasted every day. We never missed a day. Prayed, fasted, cried. That was my freshman year. Pray, fast, cry. Pray, fast, cry. In the middle of my freshman year, I went back to New York, saw another specialist, and he was like, let's just get some new x-rays. Let's see where you're at. Let's see how bad the fractures are open, because the bone marrow was starting to come up. And I had knots over my shins, like a lump like this. Like, this is the bone.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
was
yeah.
the lump. Yeah, just, so I'm like, all right. We end up getting the x-rays done. He goes, wait a minute. Where are the fractures? He says, you're not the same woman you're not the same girl that came to us before, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I can't find the fractures at all. The fractures had closed and calcified so hard, it was evident that a miracle took place and the bone hardened over and over and over and over. And I never had a stress fracture. I ran the hurdles for a living. Never, not once did they break. And I met someone at USF that got the same surgery, and he had to re-get the surgery twice because it failed.
Wow. Wow.
And that was it.
That could have changed your life.
Man.
So there's been moments of your life when you look back is when you had to like rebel and do your own thing, but then there's moments that you had to receive good counsel, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really a journey of discovering what you needed. It's not like you were like so independent that you're like, I'm gonna do this my
No,
way or whatever.
no.
It's
I
like,
believe in the village. Yeah.
yeah. Oh wow, that's
Yeah. And
amazing.
it's interesting how my mom's voice at the wrong time wasn't what I needed. I didn't need to live in New York and be in New York and stay there for college. But I needed her voice to say, we ain't getting that surgery. And you're going to pray and fast. You're going to learn God and watch him develop you spiritually. He's going to do the miracle. That's not a doubt.
Yeah.
But just watch.
So
Yeah,
your
that was crazy.
voice at the wrong time,
Oof.
not needed, but your mom voice at the right time.
Come on. Yeah.
Okay,
That speaks for
I'm
itself.
trying to put that together. It's not
I
as
actually dropped
complicated as I was making it. Exactly, it's not as complicated, but Okay, so now you're in college and you don't have to have that surgery, and now could you describe like the achievement, what happened during that 4 years of college? What?
Oh, man. I love USF. First, being in Florida was exactly where I needed to be. Being in Florida opened up opportunities for me to grow and to shine immeasurably. My best friends and my, what's that called when you share rooms? My roommates were all doctors. They were trying to be doctors, and they were all Indian. And I went to Diwali and I learned a lot about culture. I learned how to cook naan and this and this. And it was so cool because I would never have chose that. But yet again, God was putting me in these subsets of cultures to be developed and to embrace people and love people genuinely. That is a highlight of my life. Athletically, it was amazing. I went on to become the runner-up NCAA Woman of the Year. I was a All-American when it came to academics, and then 4.0 summa cum laude, all that stuff.
Oh wow!
All that stuff. And it was cool, man. It was dope. Like, I really performed well, and I achieved a lot athletically. And I broke the Olympic record that was held at the school. The record that was held at the school was set by a woman who went on to the Olympics. And that woman, I chased every single race. I chased that time like it was like, I have to have it, and I got it. I finally got it right before I graduated. And then she and I talked a lot. She was a great mentor to me, and she opened up my eyes to the Olympic Training Center in Claremont. I went there. It was such a long journey professionally as an athlete, but I just learned that I need one person to believe in me, even when I don't believe in myself. And I need one person's voice. I'm not a woman that needs all this counsel and all these people. I let one person in, and I always pray for that one person. God, let that one person come to develop me, to chasten me, to rebuke me. I welcome rebuke because that's growth, to heal me, to help me. And I've always had the one and always went like this in life, you know? So yeah.
That's that's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so okay, so now you're out of college.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain your journey of going into like Olympic level athlete?
Of
How did
course.
that?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. We have some amazing Olympians in Florida. We have 4 different Olympic groups that are here,
Yeah,
right here in Orlando alone. And at any given point, I was racing against them all the time, even as coming out young as an amateur in professional athletics. It was very lonely. That was the loneliest again I've ever felt in my life, because what people don't realize is when they see Sha'Carri Richardson, when they see all these athletes, track and field is so lonely. You race every single day. You might have a team, but it's your own journey. It's your own lane to race every single day against yourself, against the clock, against the standard, against the Olympic standard, against the world standard, right? So it was very lonely. And I was used to being alone. It wasn't the problem. And the hurdles is such a niche event anyway. But I became very strong in here, very resilient, very tough. Like, I was a personal trainer at the same time. Track and field doesn't have the highest salary.
yeah.
So I was learning the development of how to really service other people in the industry and fitness and wellness and still pursue my own goals. And I became very selfless. I was like, I know I'm gonna make it, but I need for that woman with weight loss management to make it, and I need for his muscle development to be better. And I was always thinking about other people, even though I was on my own journey. And it was it was hard. It was hard. I don't know. I do know it was hard. It was a very difficult journey professionally. Yeah.
So did you end up going to the Olympics? What was the situation? Did
So the
was the
situation, this was the one time that my father really was mentioning Bahamian roots. And I was like, at the time, when you're American, you don't become an expat unless you really know what you're doing in the investment of, like, you'll see now athletes that are born here and maybe their mother's Puerto Rican. Now all of a sudden they're Puerto Rican, meaning you're representing the nation of Puerto Rico as an athlete. And this happens a lot, because America has, as you watch the Olympics or anyone that knows, we are stacked. We are the best of the best. So in
yeah,
track and field, if you look at the top 100 of the world, the top 100, it could be the top 70 are all Americans. So imagine trying to win and get money and trying to, make a
yeah,
living with that competitive nature.
yeah.
So it was ideal because that back then it was Lolo Jones, Dawn Harper, Joanne Hayes. It was a lot. And so I'm like, man, how can I even break into this industry even bigger? Now it's competitive because you have, like, it's like if it was 1% that make it professionally, now we have like 0.01 that make it to the Olympics. Now
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So my best bet was to run for either Jamaica or Bahamas. And I went to, but Jamaica was stacked too at the time. So I went to Bahamas. I became their national champion and everything was everything until it wasn't. I was unfortunately in a very severe car accident. It derailed my entire career. I had qualified A standard. It was awesome, like, to qualify and to hit different things when it comes to Olympic standards, but it was also devastating for it to end. And 2016 Olympics is all I wanted. All I wanted to go to was Brazil. I didn't care about Tokyo. I didn't care about UK. All I wanted was Rio. I'm like, if I can make it there, that's like the paradise, like Florida. That's like, I just want to run there. And right
Um,
before it happened, man, that ended everything. It ended
how,
everything.
what was the time frame? How much time? I mean, when it
So
happened to the
yeah,
actual
so
race,
yeah, I had qualified for the Glasgow Games, and then we were doing uniform sizing and
you
stuff, and it was a
qualified to
process.
go to the Olympics.
So I qualified with my standard for, because first is Worlds. So it's crazy how this works, but
Okay.
Worlds is first, which is a baby Olympics, and then the Olympics. So when you hit the standard, you can literally run it the year before and still qualify just by racing because you're
Yeah.
hit. So for me, the problem was that my standard was right. I did the work, and I was just about to go to Europe and really make an earning, a good purse, because I was doing the Canadian League. It was cool. But Europe is where it's at when it comes to the money and the ability to compete against the same people you would in the Olympics. Long story short, right before my training session and right before my agent was booking the tickets for me to go, a drunk driver hit me, and yeah, it was a wrap. That was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that was a rough accident. But the craziest thing was I was so strong. My door was completely shut in. The vehicle was dismantled, and it was a hit and run too. And I remember looking down at my legs and saying, "Oh my God, if my legs are okay, I am getting out and I'm going to get my bumper up off that vehicle," because my bumper was dragging down the little highway. And I'm like, so I got out of the vehicle, and it was a long story, but they ended up stopping, and my legs have taken me through so much. And thank God I was okay. It just took a long time to recover, and that's the true moment when I figured out athletic depression is real. And I say athletic depression because I feel like depression can be, you know what I'm saying? I was
But
depressed.
it's okay. So it's so full circle, right? You
Yeah,
start the conversation being open about your therapy,
yeah,
and I mean, we have an hour to discuss. A part of your journey. We can't talk
yeah,
about everything because you
pretty
have
much.
so much to talk about, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then we end it off talking about the importance of, mental health
yeah,
and going through
yeah.
your journey and being real about it, being
Straight up.
authentic about, because you
Absolutely.
had all these dreams and all these hopes
Yeah.
and you was driven.
Oh,
You was driven.
I was
You're
there
like,
though. I did
I'm
it.
doing this thing, and you did it, you make it, now you seen it materialize. And right when it materialized,
Blindsided.
blind
Literally blindsided.
decided,
Yeah.
so there must have been days of questioning that day. Why did you go out? Why did you do this? Why didn't you just stay home? Why? Like, so you go through that journey, and
Yeah.
but you're here, and
I'm
there's
here.
so much more that came out of that.
You
Um,
listen.
yes,
Listen. I'm gonna make this area real short because this was one of the greatest testimonies. The broken legs was my testimony and how God miraculously healed me. The greatest testimony I ever had. I did the work to go through therapy and to figure out how to live life no longer as an athlete, no longer as that as my identity. That same year, a friend of mine, she was at the church, and she looked at me and she was like, "You know what? You need a model." I was like, "Man, I'm an athlete. Like in my mind, I'm still an athlete. And I've heard this all my life. You need a model. You need to be a model. Help me, support me, show me what this looks like." She gave me a contact. Diamond Agency was the first agency I ever signed with in Orlando.
I
Signed. And then after, yeah, and then after that, right, because I've been through enough, right? But after
legacy.
that, after that pressure, but it was really crazy because I signed with another agent later on the year. They had a nationwide, international, global casting for a Layla Ali lookalike to be, this was nuts. I'm only going to share this because it ties to the crushing, but also the blessing. I don't look like a boxer. I was a track and field athlete. Our bodies are tight, they're lean, they're ripped. Man, I heard God's voice 3 times. I was in my depression. I was on the couch for the whole year. I went through therapy the whole year, and I heard Yvana submit. I was like, no, 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 no. I don't look like it. I don't look like a boxer. You crazy, Lord? What? Ivana, submit. Third time, I don't go past 3. If the Lord tells me something 3 times, I'm gonna get it done in the third time. Long story short, I listened to he guided me like he was a director of a movie. I want you to wear this. I want you to research Layla Ali. I want you to go to the gym. At that time, my husband was helping me, and we trained like I was the world's best boxer.
Wow.
And long story short, out of an international search, I was selected to be Layla Ali for a short film and a commercial. And I get the call from my agent, and she's like, "Ivana, you booked it." And it's one thing to book like commercial, you booked it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so where are they sending me? They're sending me back to Brooklyn, New York, at Gleason's Gym to train with professional fighters. And then they're going to fly you 2016 to Brazil. I was like,
Wow.
what?
What? Wow, that's
I
amazing.
was
You
like,
wanted to go to Brazil.
to do what? They're like, you're going to be the star in the ring as the world champion. Mind you, I didn't make it to the Olympics the way I thought I was going to make it. God put me in another arena of life with my hands lifted. That was the end of the whole scene. My hands were lifted, and Muhammad Ali was behind me, the guy portraying Muhammad Ali. And he's excited, and I'm just like, in my heart, I'm in tears because I'm like, God, you never failed the vision. I just kept force fitting it into what I thought. That's
Look
it.
at, I mean, Ivana, like I said, I wanted you to be the first guest because you don't fail in delivering. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You've blessed this
Thank
show.
you.
Thank you for your story, a part of your story.
Yeah,
There's so much
yeah.
more. There may be a part two in the future, but I really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until next
Thank you
time.
so much. Blessings.